Welcome back from the short commercial break, and this is Financial Markets with me, Julius Nsubuga, and I am right here giving you an update of some of the stocks, and we are looking at individual companies listed on the Ghana Securities Exchange and also the Nairobi Securities Exchange. So we have just looked at a few of these companies right from the Ghana Securities Exchange, and now we are looking at these companies listed on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. And just recall that half of companies listed on the Uganda Securities Exchange are from Kenya. So we're also trying to look at how Kenyan firms that are listed on their exchange are performing as well. So it is very important to note that we have basically looked at so many of them, and we can see that there's some bit of volatility. So, however, we have more gainers than losers. There are some that are basically gaining by a very huge percentage. For example, housing finance, right, in Kenya is up. Its stock price is up by a whopping 9.06%, and other companies also following the same. So Diamond Ken, for example, its share price is up by 6.19%. So you can see that there is some bit of volatility right here. So we have many companies right here down. However, if you may have a look at the remaining companies, remember they're over 60. So you have many of them indicating no change at all as of now. But of course, these figures are always changing. So, but as of now, what we have is that probably Everready East Africa, the share price is down by 3.37%, and that is an equivalent of a loss of about 0.03 points, and thus bring it to 0.86 Kenyan shillings per share. However, other companies like Express Ken, nothing much is happening. On the share price remains at 3.93 Kenyan shillings per share. Kenya Airways, a company that is also listed on the Ghana Securities Exchange. You can see here that nothing much is happening. So you have its share price at 2.15 Kenyan shillings per share. So you have Longhorn as well. Longhorn's share price is 3.69 Kenyan shillings. Nothing much of an activity going on there. Standard Group, you have Standard Group at 11.90 Kenyan shillings per share. TPS Serena is at 12.55 Kenyan shillings per share, and nothing much. All these companies, nothing much is happening. So I'm waiting to see where Umeme is. So it's just right down here. So if you have a look at Umeme, nothing much is also happening right here on its stock price. However, it is trading at a share price of 6.70 Kenyan shillings per share. Jubilee Holdings right here is also trading at a share price of 275.25, and that nothing much is happening right there on its share price. So no change is recorded. Now, if you have a look at other companies like TransCentury, you can see right here that it is listed, but nothing much is happening on its stock price, and therefore it's trading at a share price right now of 1.08 Kenyan shillings per share. When you have a look at BAT Kenya, its share price is at 490.25 Kenyan shillings per share, and nothing much is also happening on its share price. No change at all. You have New Gold also, New Gold right here, trading at a share price of 2,035.00. What a price. So it is trading at a price of 2,035.00 Kenyan shillings per share. And of course, nothing much is happening, no changes on its share price. But you can see here that Mumias Sugar Company, its share price is right now at 0.28 Kenyan shillings right now as we speak, but nothing much, of course, as well as of late. But of course, we wait to see what happens on all these stocks as the day goes by. So you just never know, there could be some bit of events that could influence markets to become even more volatile. So that is it with some of these companies. So if we may go down, probably you see that there is not much to really talk about. So these are the companies, and you're seeing that probably you have, in those that are basically volatile right now, you have a bit more gainers than losers. So we can say about 60% are gainers and 40% of those volatile are also losing. So 60% gainers and 40% losers. And probably you have the rest of the half, actually, nothing much is happening over there. So we must say it's non-performing right now as we speak. But as the day goes by, something can happen. So let's now have a look at other stock market news and also what's happening elsewhere. So if we may turn now to global markets, and this is Business Insider. So Business Insider right here, as you can see, is a very important place to really watch markets. So if you may have a look here at Business Insider, where you have most of these global market indices just right indicated here. And well, you have from all across the world. So you have many of these stocks just right here. But if we may have a look at today's stocks on general terms in the USA, you have more indices showing that, well, the week is starting with some sort of, some of them, of course, we're going to be looking at how they closed Friday, but of course, some of them have been also updated, and we can see that the global Dow USA, as you can see here, this is as of today, is indicating that probably you have the share price of these companies that are being tracked by the global Dow index. So it's showing that the stock price is down on average by 3.76%. Beg your pardon, it is down by 0.09%, and thus representing a 3.76 loss in the value, points loss in the value of those stocks. And when you have a look at the global Dow, it's giving a representation of the global stock market prices, but it's an average, of course. So it's the global, it's the Dow Jones index that is basically tracking these, its global market indices from all across continents. So it's indicating a downward trend in the value of the stocks on average. However, the Dow Jones USA is indicating an upward trend of about 0.8%, and that is an equivalent of about 274.17 points gain, and thus bring it to 34,754.93. That's the value of the Dow Jones index right now as we speak. So the Dow Jones index is basically an index tracking down the performance, the best performing, 30 best performing stocks in the United States. And so it is indicating here that there's an upward trend of about 0.8%. But this is as of close of Friday. So as the week is getting started, many of these markets are now opening, and we're going to be having a look at many of these markets are basically as of close of Friday. Then later on we're going to be seeing how they are performing right now as we speak. So the Dow Jones closed Friday with an upward trend of about 0.8%. And if you have a look at NASDAQ 100, NASDAQ 100 is an index tracking down 100 best performing stocks listed on the NASDAQ Stock Exchange. And you can see here that the NASDAQ is indicating as of close of Friday, there was a 2.14% gain in the value of the stock on average of those companies, 100 companies on average. And so that's indicating a 301.48 points gain. And that is quite something as well to know. If you have a look at the NASDAQ Composite, the NASDAQ Composite just right over here also closed Friday. It closed Friday with an upward trend of 2.05%, and that was an equivalent of a gain of 279.06 points on the value of the value of its stock on average. The NASDAQ Composite Index is tracking down all companies listed on the NASDAQ Stock Exchange. So it's tracking down the performance of all these companies. So that is the NASDAQ Composite. Closed Friday with an upward trend of 2.05 as of last week Friday. But of course, many of them are opening, and so probably we can see some sort of change. We're going to be seeing now how they're basically right now performing in the next few minutes. So if you may have a look at the New York Stock Exchange International 100, well, you will actually see right here as well that the New York Stock Exchange International 100, which is tracking down 100 international companies, but based on the USA, it is basically indicating here that it closed Friday with those stocks on average up by 0.61%, and thus indicating a 39.58 points gain in the value of the stocks, being represented by 100 global companies that are being tracked by the New York Stock Exchange International 100 Index. So if you may have a look at the New York Stock Exchange US 100, so this is tracking down 100 best performing stocks in the US, and it's different from the New York Stock Exchange International 100 because these are global companies. But if you have a look at now the local companies, 100 of them, well, it's indicating here that it closed Friday that it was up by 0.53%, and thus indicating a 74.89 points gain in the value of the stock on average of the 100 best performing US stocks, and that is basically US companies per se. So that is the New York Stock Exchange US 100. Now, if you may have a look at the Russell, now the Russell 2000 is also a very important index because it's tracking down 2,000. It's tracking down 2,000 companies with the least market capitalization. So if you may have a look here, the Russell 2000 close, well, basically is being updated right now as we speak. So for it is showing right now that it is indeed up right now by 0.77%, and thus indicating a 15.9 points gain just this morning. If you may have a look at the S&P 500, the S&P 500 is one of those very most important indices to really just keep your eyes on at all times. One of the most important. So you have the S&P 500 having closed Friday with an upward trend of about 1.17%, thus indicating a 51.45 gain in the value of the stock right there, of the 500 most prestigious or probably best performing public companies. So, well, it's a very prestigious index, and it's tracking down 500 best performing stocks in the US. And so this S&P 500, well, when your company is called an S&P 500 company, then basically that's basically the meaning. Now, let's have a look at the S&P Canada. So it also closed Friday with an upward trend of 0.22%, thus indicating a 47.25 points gain in the value of the stock. That is Canada, the S&P stroke TSX Canada. So if we may have a look at other stocks, probably indices from Western Europe, you have a look at many of them and how they closed Friday. Beginning with the DAX. The general DAX from Germany is tracking down companies, best performing companies listed in Germany on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. You can see here that it closed Friday with an upward trend of about 0.17%, and thus also that is being represented by about 25.03 gain. And that's the DAX from Germany. So tracking down best performing stocks from Germany. So it says it closed Friday with an upward trend in the value of the stock that's being tracked by the DAX. So if you may have a look at the DIF-DAX, the DIF-DAX also indicated that probably you had a downward trend. So it closed Friday with a loss of about 0.58%, and thus indicating a 1.06 points loss in the value of the stock. So that is the DIF-DAX. Now the MDAX Germany as well is a very important index. It shows here that it closed Friday with a 0.42% gain in the value of the stock, thus indicating a 133.14 points gain. That's the MDAX. TechDAX Germany as well, it's a very important index as well, so it's indicating here that it closed as well Friday with an upward trend of about 1.35%, and thus indicating a 43.97 points gain in the value of the stock right there in Germany. Netherlands. Netherlands also is a very important place to watch because it's a real huge player as well, and most especially when you look at Amsterdam, which was the first stock exchange that there has ever been. And so you can see here that it closed also Friday with an upward trend of about 1.26% through the AEX index, which comes from Netherlands. So you can see here that it's indicating a 1.26 gain as of close of Friday, and also an 8.91 points gain as of close of Friday. So when you look at now France through the CSC 40, the CSC 40 is basically tracking down 40 best performing publicly listed companies in France. It closed Friday with an upward trend of about 0.12%, thus indicating a 7.72 points gain. That's quite something as well. Now, of course, we can't talk about Western Europe without looking at the Great Britain and its prestigious FTSE 100. So the Financial Times Stock Exchange 100 is just basically stands for FTSE 100 right there. So it's showing here that it closed Friday with an upward trend of 0.26 and a 19.36 points gain in the value of the stocks right there, so which was quite something to note. So if you may also have a look at the other indices like the IBEX 35. The IBEX 35 is a very important index from Spain, as well, tracking down 35 best performing public listed companies in Spain. It's indicating here that it closed Friday with an upward trend of 0.07%, thus a 5.6 points gain in the value of the stocks right there that are being tracked by the IBEX 35. So if you turn to Sweden, through the OMXS30, well, you can see here that it also closed Friday. The index is showing that it closed Friday with an upward trend of about 0.92% in the value of the stocks that are being tracked by the index, and thus a 19.82 points gain in the value of the stocks on average right there in Sweden. Turning now to Switzerland through the SMI index. The SMI index is indicating that as of close of Friday, most of these stocks were up by 1.02%, indicating a 123.12 points gain in the value of the stocks just right there in Switzerland. So that is Switzerland for you just right here. And so it is very important. We can't really live without talking about South America as well. Yes. Now through the Bovespa index in Brazil, you can see here that as of close of Friday, it's indicating that the Bovespa index from Brazil and companies that are being tracked by the index closed Friday with a 2.51 points gain, and thus a 2,810 points gain. That's now the points. So this was quite something as well. So 2.51%, not a bad idea, of course. And that's a very good gain in general terms. If you may have a look at Bermuda, nothing much has changed and nothing much has been recorded there for quite some time. The IGPA from Kyle. Kyle is one of those stock markets that have been really volatile of late in South America. And you can see here that as of close of Friday, it closed Friday with an upward trend, or probably with a 1.5% gain in the value of the stock, thus a 229.47 points gain in the value of the stock. So if you may have a look at Venezuela as well through the IBC index, just right over here, it's basically indicating that as of last week as well, it closed with about a loss of 0.22% in the value of the stock. That's indicating an 11.4 points loss. Ecuador, nothing much basically has been reported since last week up to now. So we wait to see what happens just right over there. Now, let's have a look at Eastern Europe. I'm very much interested in Eastern Europe and basically how it closed. It closed Friday, and probably Eastern Europe is one of those countries, is all those countries close to Russia and the Ukraine. So many of these countries are basically affected, of course, by what is happening there and by the Russian invasion of Ukraine and what's happening right now. So we can see here that in Hungary, through the BUX index, it closed Friday with a downward trend of 1.48%, thus indicating a 661.02 points gain in the value of the stock on average in Hungary. That is Hungary for you. So if you may have a look at Russia as well, well, Russia, nothing much is coming from there because the stock market was closed. And so, of course, nothing much is recorded there. So now, let's now have a look at, if you may have a look at Slovakia, still these are countries just close to Russia, nothing much is happening there. Now, Asia is one of my very important places to basically have our eyes very keen. So in Asia, the story is a bit different, and you can see here that as of this morning, it's only the Australia Ordinaries Index that's showing a bit of a latest kind of update. But we can see here that as of this morning, it was the Australia Ordinaries Index indicated a downward trend of about 0.16%, thus a 12.3 points gain. So in Australia, the story is a bit different, and you can see a loss for the beginning of the day, a loss in the stock prices, or probably in the value of the stocks right there, in Australia as of this morning. Now, if you may have a look at the Hang Seng, Hong Kong, the timing and all that is very important when you're looking at stocks because different stock markets open at different times, so you must be very keen on that. So if you see some of them not updated, so you just know that probably they haven't yet opened. So we're basically trying to look at some of those companies right here, those indices that basically are bringing in a bit of information as of close of last week. Then we shall see how many of these stocks are basically also performing as of today, and some of them even live. So right here in Africa or the Middle East, probably if you may have a look at Egypt for, yes, of course, as of yesterday, because Egypt is a Muslim-dominated country, so you can see here that probably yesterday markets were open. So as of close of yesterday, so in Egypt, through the EGX 30, an index that is tracking down 30 best performing publicly listed companies in Egypt, is indicating that as of yesterday, close of business, its stock price was up by 2.31% and thus a 247.28 points gain. And that is Egypt for you. So Egypt, you have quite an upward trend as of close of business last night. So we wait to see what happens, of course, today. Before we get to see the Pakistan, because we're looking at the Africa Middle East, so Pakistan is in the Middle East. So the Pakistan KSE 100, we're going to see what happens with it and how it closed Friday. So now let's just have a very short commercial break, and I'm going to be right back with more and more stock market news.
Smart 24, driving business.